I went crazy. I spent all the money I had at the time on just materials, and I had burnt literally everything, trial and error, like a crazy person in the room, just like, I'm obsessed and I need to figure out a solution and I need to do this on my own, So there was guidance, but my ego was like, I'm going to figure this out. Like, I'm going to figure this out.
Hello and welcome to the Tending Creativity podcast. This podcast is about art and creativity and centers the experiences of marginalized genders. I'm your host, Marissa, and for today's episode, I got to talk to artist Fatima Nieto. Fatima is a laser cut mirror artist, and her work is just like so incredible. I have never seen anything like it before. It's very colorful. It's gotten bigger over time. It's very commanding of your attention. Yeah, she takes a lot of imagery from her culture and her childhood. I got to talk to her today about how she got into laser cutting and making mirrors and how that has evolved for her, some of the difficulties she's faced with it, and how it has been like a, mirror in a way for her own self-growth journey as she has grown with the medium as an artist. And yeah, just a bunch more stuff about her and her process. And it was really awesome to get to talk to her about all of that. I've loved her work for such a long time, and I'm really happy because I had never actually been able to see it in person. But this past a few months ago, a little bit after I interviewed, I was able to see one of her newer pieces at Tlaloc Studios. Yeah, and it was super awesome in person. And before I get into the interview, I just want to remind you, or if you haven't heard from the last episode, that listeners of the podcast, I will send you a free sticker. All you have to do is leave a written review on Apple Podcasts, and then you can screenshot it and send it to me via email at marisuelena@gmail.com, or you can DM me at marisuelena on Instagram or the Tending Creativity Instagram, along with your mailing address, and I will send you a free sticker. Yeah, I will just go ahead and get into today's episode. So I wanted to just start off by asking you to introduce yourself and what you do.
Okay. Hi, I'm Fatima Nieto. I'm a visual artist. I laser cut plexiglass. I make custom acrylic mirror in all different scale, to home decor goods, to large scale installation and stage design. I live in LA, but I'm from El Paso, Texas.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that. That's cool.
Oh my God. It's honestly really dope because it's right next to the border. So it's like a very different part of Texas,
Yeah.
It's like the Mexican Texas.
Yeah. That's cool. Awesome. That's crazy too, because not crazy, but it's just cool. And because I've never been to El Paso, but I had to go to Juarez last month. So I was close,
Yes.
We wanted to see depending on because I went because my husband had to do his visa interview.
Yeah.
So we were like, oh, hopefully if everything goes good and he gets approved, and if we still, because we had to schedule, we couldn't schedule our flight back because we didn't know how long things were gonna take. So we were like, oh, and he had scheduled time off from work. So we were like, oh, maybe we could visit El Paso. But then we were stressed. So we were just, we're gonna go home. So but I want to visit one day.
Yeah, when you have more time and it's going under different circumstances.
Yeah.
I think it's a good place to go. My dad is from Juarez, and it's not as dangerous now as it used to be. But it's still really dope. The resources there, I got my wisdom teeth pulled out for $20 US, all four in Juarez. So I've been taken care of before there.
Yeah, that's cool. So speaking of where you're from and everything, I wanted to ask you, what has your relationship with creativity been like since you were a child? Did you always make art and do stuff, or was that for you?
That's so interesting because I actually grew up being a childhood actor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, very different from what I'm doing now.
Hmm.
I was really obsessed with film and TV. I did a lot of commercial work and TV work up until I was like, I don't want to do the film and TV thing anymore. I want to do theater because it's more raw and
Mm.
it's like more gaudy and outlandish. So I auditioned for plays. I studied theater basically my whole entire life through high school, through college. So acting has been the primary part of my life, to be quite honest. And I miss it daily. It's just different from going from being in front of the camera to behind the camera. Now I'm like more hidden behind the scenes type
Hmm.
work. And I like it more this way, even though the cancer in me is like, look at me, I'm also like, don't look at me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I grew up acting, but I didn't even start getting like into visual arts until I had graduated from college, probably in um, at least like I discovered laser cutting in like 2015, 2014, somewhere around there. But through just like this dinky space that was next to my college, that was like a makerspace, is how I found out about the world of actual visual arts.
That's cool. So were you doing like acting and stuff here in LA, or did you grow up in El Paso and then move like as a teenager or young adult to LA? Or were you acting not in LA?
Yeah, I was actually acting in LA because that's the land of where
Mm-hmm.
it is. Um, my life would have been really different if I would have stayed in El Paso. And I moved when I was super young to come here.
Mm,
Even though I'm from El Paso and my family is still there, I pretty much valley bound. Like I am very connected to the valley where I grew up. So yeah, I definitely sunk my feet into acting when I was here, and like at such a young age, that was just like what I was consumed by, and like definitely so much assistance from like my mom helping me like navigate that industry, which is also very complex in many ways.
yeah. Did you go to college in the valley as well?
I did. I went to CSUN,
Oh my God,
Northridge.
I went to CSUN
Wait,
too.
really?
Yeah. I didn't
Oh
even
my
realize that.
gosh. I was such a different person at CSUN. Like I was like acting, but I was so angsty, like hiding in the theater room. Like it
Hmm.
was just such a different skewed version of me. But I'm like, I kind of miss her. Like
Yeah, yeah,
she was dope. But it's just like time has passed. So but
yeah,
fond memories of CSUN, even though like the school system is like so messed up.
yeah, yeah. That's funny. Although I never I was a commuter because I live in the San Gabriel Valley,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so it was like really far. But yeah, that's funny. That's cool.
Yeah, I was
Um,
commuting too. That was so like, oh my God, crazy. But it kind of like prepped me for where I'm at now, which is like I commute everywhere. I'm driving everywhere all day. So I'm like used to it by now.
Yeah. So, when you started going to like that space next to your school, what made you even like be interested in like going there? What were you looking to do? Like, was something happening like with acting where you weren't like, you wanted to explore different things, or how did that like transition happen?
I think it was like divine timing because I still was very obsessed with the acting world, but slowly like letting go of the grip of this life that I had known. But I was introduced to it was called Hex Lab, and it was a 24-hour makerspace that was just like full of dudes who like built robots and made virtual reality games and did woodworking, engineering, welding. Like it was very crazy group of people there, like very smart, intuitive people. But they had a lack of women. There was no women at the space. Like when I came, it was like they'd all look at me all crazy because they had never seen like this like little light force just trying to learn shit. But yeah, I had been introduced to me and I just showed up one day and I mingled with everybody and I just like observed and I didn't know shit about laser cutting. Like it was definitely like a whole new territory for me when I had entered. But yeah, no pre-existing knowledge about what I was about to get into at all.
So then how did you like decide what to kind of explore within that space?
Mm-mm. Well, I had seen the laser cutter, which had already looked super intimidating to me. Like it's just like this 3x4 like metal Terminator machine, like super scary. And I was like, yeah, no thanks. I'll like 3D print or I'll do, something that feels like maybe my size or something.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this guy, Dustin and Mike, who owned the place. Mike did. And I was super like interested in the laser cutter, but I didn't even like think about entering that world. But I had gone outside and I had seen all this shattered mirror like cracked outside of
Mm-hmm.
the makerspace and no one had cleaned it. And then I kind of thought, oh, I wonder what you could cut on the machine. And then I was like, oh shit, I wonder if you could cut mirror. But like, no, maybe it's too thick. Like maybe it won't be as malleable. Like, but then like they're like, wait, yeah, you can go to an acrylic store and there's acrylic mirrors. Acrylic mirror is different than glass mirror. And I went crazy. I spent all the money I had at the time on just materials, and I had burnt literally everything, trial and error, like a crazy person in the room, just like, I'm obsessed and I need to figure out a solution and I need to do this on my own. So there was guidance, but my ego was like, I'm going to figure this out. Like, I'm going to figure this out. And I used this outdated software from the 90s that was already like installed on their computer.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I was backtracking. It was like I did not learn AI or any of these fancy new programs. I was like, okay, CorelDRAW is like so fun and easy. Like the interface is super easy to navigate. So that was not as intimidating as the machinery I was about to use. So yeah, I just kind of went crazy and laser cut all this stuff and burnt and ruined all these pieces until I like stayed for hours and hours and I finally like perfected this piece. The first piece I made was of a dog, like a turquoise teal like puppy mirror. And I remember looking into it and like the etching was perfect, the cut was perfect, it wasn't burned. And I was like, okay, I guess this is my thing now. Like, damn. And it's also crazy being able to see myself in my work. Like the reflectivity, the color was like, that shit was sexy to me. I was like, I don't know why I feel good now, but like it gave me a different perception of like, wow, seeing yourself, because so often we're working in mediums where we don't really visually see ourselves. You can't escape your reflection at that point. So you have to deal with what's in front of you and it's heavy.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's really cool. When you were starting to like play around with it, was that like design of the dog what you were like trying to aim towards as your first piece? Or at first did you like start playing around with it? And then how did like deciding to do a dog come into your mind?
Yeah, well, I love animals. I love dogs. And all my beginning works were all things from like a very nostalgic place of my childhood. It was like snails or like cute caricatures or like fruit, things that are like very comforting to me. But it's super cool thinking about my work then and my work now, like how much it's evolved into like I'm a perfectionist when it comes to detail. Like I will notice anything in a room if it's been moved, changed, anything. And with my work, I'm like, I want to make it to where somebody has to look really hard at something for a while to just really see all of the detail. Like I'm obsessed with that stuff. So
Yeah.
seeing like the gold one layer snail mirror to like what I'm looking at right now, which was, a collaborative puzzle I made, and it's like over 650 cuts and like 20 colors, like something so like that to me compared to that is like, wow, like I'm proud of myself.
I mean, one, even doing like what you were doing before, like if it was just like a single layer is like amazing. But
Oh,
like the work that you're doing now, like even without seeing it in person, I can't even imagine like what it's like to interact with it in person. But like seeing it through like my telephone and stuff, like I'm just like, damn, like that is so like intense, but like in a like awe-inspiring way, especially because of like the reflective I mean, I like shiny stuff. So
Yes, me too.
it's just kind of like that, since it like reflects any light and like colors, it's just like so like you can't help but there's no way to like that you could ignore something like that, so it's just like it commands your attention in like a really awesome way.
Hey, love that.
So because you had mentioned, and this was something that was curious about too, how initially you spent like all your money. That was something that I was wondering about. Like, was it an expensive medium to start off with, and like how did you balance that with like wanting to make more work?
Huh. That's a great question because this shit is so expensive. Like, good time to mention, like, when people ask my prices, I have to bite my tongue because I hate talking about money. Like, it just it trips me out, truly. But people wonder why the prices are what they are. And it's because my medium, I chose a very expensive medium. And I can't help it. I'm too obsessed now. I can't really take a step back. So I make the sacrifice. But yeah, when I first initially bought all that acrylic, that was like, damn, like balls to the wall. Like, I guess that's what we're doing today.
Yeah.
We're going to spend a lot of money that we don't have on something in hopes that it will be beneficial to me, or cathartic for me. And yeah, like I did not have the capital to be able to buy a bunch, but I definitely got everything that I could, and I fucked up all of that material. Like I literally ruined it. But had I not made that first initial move, I would have never seen it through.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that initial impulse was very important for me to do.
At what point did it start? Like, did you start selling? Because did you start off with like commissions for mirrors or?
No, I wasn't even trying to sell them. Like, I was just in a really bad relationship at the time and like really depressed and like looking for any sort of escapism, truthfully. And when I found reflective acrylic mirror and laser cutting, it's like my focus shifted completely. It was to like slowly get away from this toxic relationship that I had been in, so I was just looking for a release. I wasn't even looking to like sell anything. I was still in college at that point. And like I didn't do this for monetary like exchange. Like it was just like, damn, I feel so good and I feel so confident and I feel like I'm reclaiming my own individual power now. But it wasn't even till people started to actually become interested in this stuff and vocalize, their appreciation for it, is when I started to even think about the idea of selling it. But that was not the initial take. It was just to heal myself, really, because the act of cutting something so delicate and fragile felt like me unpeeling the layers of myself, which is a very fragile and delicate person. So it almost felt like really symbolic, and it's taken a whole new shape, into how I see myself and how I want to avidly be working on myself. So it's like, just like the work is never fully what it finished in that way, to me, it's like I am like that, the process and the work will never end for me. So it's still a healing thing for me to do for my life.
Yeah, I definitely want to dig more into like that aspect of like how like you have changed through the process along with your work. But before that, I did want to kind of still ask about like, so since that, that wasn't even what you were thinking about as far as selling or making money from it, so like people started to inquire, how did that make you feel? Were you kind of like put off by it because it was like, no, like that's not what the point of this is? Or were you kind of like, or what was like your reaction to that?
It was like, dang, that's cool. Like big love, like
Yeah.
I appreciate that for sure. I didn't take it personally at all, because how were they supposed to know? It's just like a
Mm-hmm.
cathartic release. Here I am opening the door, sharing it on social media, that's then going to attract somebody to have a response. Anything we put out there, there's going to be some sort of rebuttal of like people commenting on something or showing, love or whatever it is. So I was not put off. If anything, I was excited, I was excited to be doing something so different than what I had been known to do.
Was it like, oh, it's nice that people are appreciating the work that I'm making?
Yeah, it felt really nice. It definitely felt like a comforting feeling. And I was used to hearing that in the acting world, like, oh my God, that performance, like, wow, like, you know how to act. Or I'd be going to acting ceremonies or competing with people around different schools. And that was like my jam. So hearing compliments in a completely different form was like, oh, whoa, I am capable, of other things outside of this, deconditioning my mind to believe.
Yeah, that's cool. So when you started making work for other people, was that process different than when you were just making your own designs? Or how did that work? Did people like request certain things, or like did you only like take stuff that you fit within what you wanted to make?
Yeah, definitely huge process of trial and error, like there has been, I think any artist can relate to this, an artist who especially has like an open commission policy. It's like, of course, I can be selective of the things I say yes to without a doubt. We are the key holders at the end of the day. But yeah, I feel like there was so many times when it started to become a monetary exchange, like I drifted a little bit farther away from the stuff I actually wanted to produce. But when people would commission things, I was like, oh my God, I've been wanting to make that. It was like spirit, and I was so grateful for that, and to be bringing in people who I don't know, in some way probably appreciated the same things that I did when I was a kid, and like making things truthfully that I couldn't afford when I was younger, like it was like, dang, I can finally have that plushie in mirror form for somebody else. Like that felt really cool, so yeah.
Cool. So speaking of like how, sometimes the commissions would be like, oh, like that's great because I already wanted to do something like this. Your designs in general, I know you said like at the beginning, I'm assuming kind of still now, like a lot of it is inspired by like things from your childhood and stuff. And I really love that kind of like that theme as well in artwork, especially your artwork. Like I remember one of the first I don't know if it's how I started following you when somebody reposted, but the Beanie Baby necklaces, like I love those so much. And just like, a lot of the different work that you have is kind of like reminiscent of that. So can you talk about the inspirations for your work and your designs?
Yeah, absolutely. It's usually pulled from things that like literally make little Fatima like, it's like Beanie Babies were like me and my family's thing. Like when my parents were divorced, my mom would, oh my God, this sounds funny, but not like to cope with the divorce, we'd have like hella Beanie Babies like all over the crib. Like it was crazy. And me and my sister Paloma, like we loved them. Like we are hoarders, like, but collectors mostly. So having those around in the house and plushies and like things of the 90s that were just so like, they're so comforting to me now. Like I'm no different from how I was when I was young. Like I'm literally looking at my shelf right now, hella homies dolls.
Oh, I love this.
Sweetie plushie, like Astro Boy, really, like everything is just like, I have not changed at all. Seeing this is inspiration to make pieces because like this is a comfort state for me. And I know in life we shouldn't always be too comfortable because life is not comfortable, but these make me feel youthful and they bring me so much peace, honestly, like thinking about my little self interacting with like things that I'm making in tangible form now. So I think drawing inspiration of like stuff that I grew up with, especially now being able to incorporate like my culture in it is like a really big importance to me. It's like the best of both worlds of like nostalgia, but also like growing up in a Mexican household. So combining those are like, it's like a crazy force that I'm like, yeah, that's me. That's a reflection of me for sure.
Yeah. So I wanted to get back to that question of how your work has talk more about like how your work has evolved. I know that like it's more intricate now. And you kind of like mix like materials sometimes as well now, right? Like you don't just use acrylic, but you use like plexiglass and stuff like that, right? So how has that evolution kind of like reflected with your relationship with your work?
I love that. I think I was always afraid in the beginning of making like work that was too large scale because of the fear of evolving, with such a tricky medium. But what I can reference now is all my work that has gotten bigger. And now it's like, okay, too late. I can't go back. Like the work is only going to get more massive and massive, massive. I guess like I am so intricate and OCD with certain details that I'm like, okay, I really want that to carry over in my work. It makes sense there. So I'm really able to expand on a deeper vision. Like for the piece that will be shown on Saturday, it's literally a life-size version of me dressed as a homie's doll of like how I used to dress when I was a young girl, like chola goth vibe. And it's crazy because I was able to incorporate like wood and plexiglass, acrylic mirror, and like some steel in the back, like, which is like, huh? Like, I'm adding layers like that and adding dimension. It's so like new. It's so new to me because now I literally can never go back. Like I want to make crazy work. I want to make sculptural, like definitely everything 3D. I want things to feel like pop art, and I want things to feel as realistic as possible and comforting at the same time. So where I'm at right now, and even just looking at this puzzle with like a thick wood base, like that's like at least 15 layers of work, more than that. Like, it's just like now it's taken a different form that I would have never, ever guessed. And it's like from this point forward, I can only just continue building on that, I can never go back to a two-dimensional one color anything, even though that's like where I started, I'm in too deep for real. Like, so it's cool to have this as an add-on now because it really makes the piece come to life, and I really care about interactivity. So I like pieces at least to even be usable, like functional. Like this is a literal puzzle where you can shift the pieces around. Like if that's not some kid shit, I really don't know what is. So it's like it's important to be able to touch things that feel like when you enter a gallery, oh, I'm not supposed to touch that. Of course, like not all work should be touched.
Yeah.
But like when there's space for that to be the case, like I'm like all hands on deck, like, let your true kid self run wild for sure. So this whole dimension is like an attribute that I definitely value.
Do you remember, is there like a particular piece where you kind of like, where you first started doing that? Or like, what was like the first piece like that was like life size or that you mixed medium? And what was that process like trying out that like exploring that new dimension of your work?
So it was in December of 2018. when I was working with somebody named Blake, and we made a 3-dimensional water fountain, plexiglass, 2-layered, with a plexi base with walls and hydroponics. So it actually pumped out water. I remember I have a video on my phone the day that we got the hydroponics going, and I remember sticking my tongue out and licking the water because I was like, bro, I am dreaming right now. Like, how this looks so crazy. And I can't even, this was when I had really bad work schedule and I was like chaotic, and I would stay up for like 7 days straight, like no sleep. And I'd be like, okay, we're going back to work. Like, not in my right mind. Now I try to value sleep a little bit more. I still stay up late. But yeah, that was the first moment where I was like, okay, yeah, I've just unlocked a door now, and like it's going to be really hard to come back from this. And like, I can't take any steps backwards. I just want to continue making things that are functional and tangible and dimensional. And that water fountain was like definitely the entryway, I would say, to a more advanced project of mine.
Yeah. Can you talk about like, this is like kind of a multi-part question. So like first, like something that, let's say like the piece that you made for the show that's opening on Saturday, how long does something like that take to make?
Dang, I don't even know. My time perception is so off, and I don't really like to be rushed at all with anything. Like, that gives me so much anxiety and stress because I'm already prone to so much anxiety. So I try to keep it chill. But that took me like at least like, I don't know, maybe few weeks. But like avidly working on it,
Mm-hmm.
Because I had never made anything to that scale before. Just recently, I completed another big work for Coachella stage design, but even that like had so much more dimension and is on a tour right now, So I've had to make these things with like safety in mind, to where this is a fragile medium. So I do have to work longer on these pieces for extra durability. So that piece was, let's just say like 3 weeks to like maybe a month of working on that. Because it is a very time consuming medium, down to, illustration, down to materials, down to cut, down to just like editing the design literally in the laser cutting software, and the multitude of cuts because I'm a nut and I love color. So all of that combined is like so much time.
Yeah. So with all of that, can you kind of walk through like the process of a piece from like start, like idea to like finished piece? What is that process like for you?
Yeah. So I guess the beginning is just like outside like inspiration. So whatever I'm feeling at that moment, like right now, I'm trying to conjure up pieces for the next show I have on the 28th, a group show as well. And I'm going through a really big like heartbreak right now. So I feel like my surroundings, I'm looking at everything like with a very like a nostalgic lens, and like very kind of just like dazed feeling. But also this event doesn't call for that. This event is very like highlighting a lot of things in Mexican culture of working class people, and like fruteras or piñata makers. And so I'm like, I'm going to have to get out of this heartbreak state and like tap into like the piñata district and like, a family party or something. But usually I take my outside surroundings, and I'm just like very visual person. So I have to just like see things in like real life. And then I'm able to kind of just doodle in the journal and then take it to the Corel Draw software. That's when I begin to illustrate. And then after that, well, that takes a really long time. So I'm on there for a while and I'm jumping back from outside inspiration to the program. And then I kind of start thinking about colors and what I'm trying to source or what I have already in my collection. I don't throw anything away. So I'm like an avid scrap user because it's plastic, you know, instead of just like throwing something away, you can always use it. So I have like hundreds of pieces of material. So I always just like look at what colors I'm feeling for a certain piece or how I want it. If I want it to be soft or loud, you know, depending on how I'm feeling as well too. And then I'll be able to start connecting the Corel Draw to the actual laser cutter and like fabricating. I can start cutting pieces, which becomes transcendental at that point. I get so lost in that process. It really is so intensive. And I usually take a lot of time on the machine. So after the machine, it's literally like I need a big table and I need to put everything together like a piece, like a puzzle almost, like it fits in a very specific piece. If I have to do any sanding for things to fit into a certain piece, I'll do that. I don't peel anything. That's the last thing I do is like the reveal of the mirror because I try to refrain from like scratches or dust. So I just kind of like place everything together and then I glue, which usually takes a while as well. And then peeling is the last part. But there's so much that goes into it because sometimes I'll just be like staring at it for like an hour being like, is this it for me? Should I go crazier? Should I, you know, like I'm always in conflict with myself of like limitation or like what my boundaries are for a certain piece. So it's like a 12-step process and I'm a party of one. So I do everything myself. And I definitely am trying to manifest a team though, you know.
Yeah. I was kind of like wondering, that was like going to be one of the questions I asked, like if you ever have like anybody assist you with any of it. But yeah.
I wish the homies, I when I have like festivals or anything that I'm doing large scale, the homies will help peel, you know, if they're able to. But I don't really have a lot of assistance with my work. And that's why I'm trying to like manifest it.
Are you still making like, is your workspace still the same space that you started off in, or are you in like a different studio space?
I miss the OG one so bad because it was so dope. It had like kombucha on tap. It's so clean. Like it was really it was kind of sterile looking, but I like that because I'm in such an opposite workspace now where there's like cockroaches on the floor and it's like garage, like dusty vibe. And it's chill because it gets the job done. But in retrospect, I'm like, I can't go grab a kombucha from the inside. You know, it's like so different now. And yeah, I don't know. It's definitely like a worker space now, like definitely more rough, you know, super loud. There's like people cutting wood all day or, you know, building these drones and flying that, like it's just very noisy place. And the laser cutter is in a place that's very exposed to a bunch of people. So you can't just like be in privacy there, opposed to the first location. Like it was literally a laser cutter in a private room where I could like blast music and dance around. And I was just like in my own little world. So I do long for privacy and I do long for my own studio one day and like to be able to afford this machinery because right now I'm the main person who uses the machine. So it's like, that's my baby and everyone knows it. So I am really grateful for access to this machine, but I also really do hope one day I can have my own.
Yeah. I know that with your work, you've talked about and you mentioned before, like in that first space, you were like the only woman there. And that's been like a theme in some of your shows previously. How can you talk a little bit about that? Like making this work as a woman and like your experience with that?
It's hard. It's really tough. I've been dealing with a lot of, just like my ego feeling like really shot at my makerspace because people, I'm still the only woman there, and when women do come, they leave, like because they can't handle it there, and it's because it sucks. Like it's too masculine. There's no room for excitement or like my energy, which is like I'm a very excited and a very passionate person, very bubbly, and I think a lot of the dudes there don't like that. Like they are not in support of that, and I get what like makerspace people are now, like the guys who are very just like are not used to seeing a lot of women. And I could just tell that they're shocked by my presence. And I like, because I am really eccentric and like excited and happy. And like, they're just very like, they're just trying to get the job done. And I just feel like I need room for play because that's innately like part of my personality. So I do struggle with that. And that's why I do manifest like my own studio one day, because right now it's not ideal. Like it's not an ideal situation to be in the shared makerspace, even though it's like, it's helped me a lot, like having access to this machinery, which is very tough to come by. But it's like maker spaces in general are a dying breed. Like they don't like exist how they used to. And a lot of them that do exist are just male operated, and like only men go there. So I'm like, that does create like a divide. Like I feel like I don't even feel like I've dealt with situations at the makerspace where I'm being made fun of about the work that I'm making. And it's just like, because it's not a car part or it's, like something just so one track minded, like, it's almost like through them, I feel so much empathy because it's like maybe they've lost a part of their childhood where they can't be excited about something like that. And I'm still holding on to that. So, and I understand, like, I have no judgment towards any of those people. People are the way that they are for a reason. And it's usually their own conditioning. And like, I try really hard to not take it personal in there, but I do feel like I am ready for a change. I'm ready to share a space with excitement instead of being so fearful or like even worried about what I'm wearing when I show up to work. Like I'm so much more vigilant when it comes to those things. And I just wish those didn't have to be the top things in my mind. I could just show up to work to create,
Yeah, definitely. I definitely though, not commend, but like, I could appreciate, like, even though I'm not like doing what you're doing, but as someone who was like raised, socialized as a woman, I'm sure many others can say like they totally understand. Like, it's not hard to imagine the things that you're saying. Like we've experienced it in like different settings, so it's really tough and like frustrating and annoying. And it's kind of like, damn, like I still gotta be like worrying about, or like my mind can't, like you said, like I can't go to work in just like the mindset I want to. There's like these other like little things that I have to keep in the back of my head. So I do hope, like that you are able to get like that space that is just works for you.
That'll be the moment. I'm gonna have an opening party and everyone will come. Like I will literally make them something in front of them. Like I want to make it a whole ass thing. When I own a laser cutter, it'll be like, okay, showtime, So,
and I can just imagine, like, because since I've told you, like, I've never seen work like yours before. But since you are like presenting your work, you're doing it, I feel like there's probably so many other like people who are not men who like are inspired by that. And I can just imagine like, this world where if you were able to get your own space, and like just imagine like how many other people like
would want to be a part of that, and how like the work that would come from that. Like I know like it's very tough to be in like a male dominated space, but it's like really, I don't know the right word. Like, I don't know. I don't like to use the word empowering sometimes because of like, you know what I mean? I don't know if you know what I mean. I do. But like, yeah, it's really inspiring. And I'm sure like there are others who would want to like make work with you or like in a space like that. So I think it's really special that you're doing what you're doing.
Thank you. And I think a way for me to make that happen is truly one day opening a women-owned makerspace.
Yeah.
Like I would love to work amongst like some of the dope artists that I know, and like creating a safe space for them would be just like ideal, to where we could all just be in a giant warehouse, like working towards something and like putting all of our brains together and even just coexisting in a space together, I think. And that's why I think I say reclaiming, because it would be reclaiming that self, you know?
Yeah, totally. So I know there's a little bit of time left, so I just have a couple more questions for you. I wanted to ask you about your experience with like designing pieces for like, because I know you said you have a piece on tour right now, and you did some work for Coachella, and you designed some set pieces for Kuko too, right? So, and I don't know if there's more that you've done, but like, what is that like compared to like other work? Or what was your first? Sorry, I know I'm like adding on to the question. What was the first work that you did for an event like that?
I feel like the Kuko tour was the first big scale thing I did, where I was like fabricating for like crazy large scale work that was on his tour. And I remember feeling really challenged and like, oh my God, my nightmare, you know, because when you're in fabrication mode, you think of everything that could go wrong. And I'm like, damn, that'd be crazy if he's like performing and the piece just like falls midair. Like, dang, like, oh my God, cancel thought, you know? So when I was fabricating, I was like learning for the first time, right? You say yes to things because you are ready for the challenge. And I was like definitely ready for that challenge. And from doing that, I did like multiple festivals after. I did like Smoke and Grooves and Just Like Heaven and Smokers Club and Coachella. And like, it's like now I feel so confident with festivals, you know, and like large scale stage design for bands that go on tour or anything. But I love that because of like multiple reasons. First off, like usually when people are outsourcing stuff from me, that's on a larger scale. It's just like very lucrative for both parties because I'm like ready to expand on a bigger, like I keep on saying I want to make my work bigger. So it's like literally a perfect opportunity to do that. Stages are huge, so it's very easy to fill the space and like make multitudes of pieces. And also like, even though it's like hard to communicate with people in the industry and like higher ups and like speaking for what I believe in, I'm getting better at that. And like when it comes to my worth, I'm like not afraid of asking for what I feel like I deserve, because I have so much of this knowledge now in my pocket that I don't take for granted. So I'm like really able to like if somebody wants something from me, like they want it for a reason. It's because they've been familiar with the work, they've seen the work, and you know, word of mouth is just like so important for smaller businesses. And I'm really grateful for anybody who's like shared the work and how I've gotten to do these jobs, you know. Like Ravina is on tour right now, and I did her set design for Coachella and her tour right now. And it was honestly like very ethereal to see my piece on stage, like in that way, you know, see her interacting with it, and to just like, it's literally this giant multicolored lotus flower that's like refracting so much light beams, and like seeing that on stage with her otherworldly presence is like really profound and like very exciting to have been a part of something like that. And again with the dimension. And again, like I teamed up with a welder to build like the base of it and like the platform that she sits on. And that's then taking my work again into a different form. It's expanding on like something that people know me for, but now with like more just like of that functional aspect.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. So I know we're kind of at the end, so I just have one more question, which is not really related to any of the other questions, depending on your answer, but it's just, I like to ask everybody, it's just, what do you like to do for fun outside of your artwork?
I love swimming. I literally am I'm a water sign, and I become a total fish when I get into water. And I was just saying this the other day. I felt like swimming, even a few days ago, healed me from like whatever I'd be going through right now. And swimming is so great. Being outdoors. I love camping. I love trees. I love nature. I love smelling flowers. I love being barefoot. I'm very connected to the outside realm. So anything with the outdoors is like definitely a safe space for me. I'm also very close with my family. So I love spending time with my family, and I love learning about just like where I came from. That's been a common theme for me, is like digging up pieces of like putting the pieces together,
Yeah.
So I'm a big family person, and if I get to have my family and be outdoors, it's like definitely a wholesome time, And I love toys. I love collecting. So my space is really a culmination of all the things that I love so dearly, and I'm always going to be a collector at heart. So that brings me a lot of joys, found objects.
For swimming, do you prefer like mostly swimming in like the ocean, or like pools is fine too?
Anything.
Yeah.
Any body of water, I'm going to be in there,
Cool. I like, I haven't done this in a long time, so I don't, hike, like when you hike like up in the Los Angeles like forest, and like those spots where you can like swim in and like jump in and stuff.
Yes.
Like those are so fun.
Oh my gosh, those are amazing. I remember going to like the Punch Bowls or something once, and there was like crazy hike, and then you finally get to like submerge yourself in water, and I was like, oh my god, yes. Yeah, I love that so much.
Yeah. And then the collecting thing is really cool too, because I know you earlier said you have like the homies. That reminds me of one of my aunts, because she's older than me. She's in her early 40s. But I remember like being little and like being at her house. She used to collect like a bunch of Hot Wheels and a bunch of like all of the little homie characters.
Oh my god.
So it was just like, when you said that, like my mind like flashed back to like seeing her collection and stuff. So yeah, that's really fun too.
I love it. Yeah, those are those hidden gems that bring me so much peace like throughout my days, is toys.
Yeah.
Toys, knickknacks, tchotchkes, light up things, Lego flowers, been like.
Oh, I have the Lego flowers too.
Yes.
That's cool. Awesome.
I love all things.
All right, Fatima. Well, thank you again so much for taking your time to speak with me. I really appreciate it, and being open with me about your work and everything. Like, I really, really appreciate it. And I can't wait I definitely am, even if I can't go Saturday, I'm planning to see the piece that you have installed during the gallery hours. Do you have anything that you want to talk about that we should be on the lookout for?
I'm gonna be in Japan in July, hoping to do some things there with my art. So I'll definitely be posting about that as well.
All right, so that was today's episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. Another reminder about leaving a written review, and you can send that to me with your mailing address, and I'll send you a free sticker. And of course, subscribe to the podcast if you're not already. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a beautiful week.